Welcome, everyone, the Friday afternoon series. We're into February already, and it's the first Friday in February of 2026. So if you're joining us live, welcome. If you're watching these on our YouTube channel, come join us live. We've got a bunch of different webinars and things. But Debbie McRae is so good with partner work, and she always brings so many great ideas and support for partners. Although I said just before we hit record, this is good for any relationship. This is good for the betraying partner as well as the betrayed partner. So uh, don't overlook it because it's useful information. Even family relationships and any difficult relationship can benefit from these details. And she shares a lot, and sometimes it feels like, oh my goodness, I have to do all those things. No, just do one thing. So just pick one. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you, Debbie. What do you have for us today?
Well, today I'm actually focusing on the betraying partner
Oh,
because
there you
we're going to
go.
talk about a really important relationship repair task that the betraying partner needs to do, and that's rebuilding trust. So,
Mm.
we're going to answer the question today of how does the betraying partner become trustworthy? So, after today's webinar, you're going to have a good roadmap of 6 trust building behaviors that you can do to create the trust that the betrayed partner needs. So, as always, I bring in to this webinar what I see in my office. So, I have seen a situation where a betrayed partner has experienced multiple betrayals with some recovery done in between those betrayals. And as they come into my office for a couple session, she might say, I just don't think I'll ever be able to trust again. Debbie, help me. I just don't think I'll ever get there. And of course, the betraying partner is sitting there questioning, well, what am I going to do? I don't know what else I can do if you're never going to trust me at all. The other thing I see shows up in my office with betrayed partners in my groups. And lots of times they're going to share that they just start to rebuild trust with their betraying partner. And then they do something that takes them all the way back into that belief of, I can never trust him again. It might be something as simple as missing a 12-step meeting and not letting the betrayed partner know, and then minimizing it when the betrayed partner approaches them about it. So the question that I ask for the betrayed partners is, gosh, why is it so hard to trust? What is it that you need for trust? Well, as a reminder, there is a rupture to the attachment bond when there's discovery and disclosure. And that deception totally causes the trust in the relationship to collapse. So trust takes years to build, and then with discovery and disclosure, seconds to break, and then it's going to take forever to repair. So it is a process. So I want to start by distinguishing the difference between trust and being trustworthy. So when we think about trust, we think of it in relationship to what the betrayed partner must develop and experience. So trust is the betrayed partner's growing ability to form a safe attachment with the betraying partner again. So as we are building trust, we also see the betrayed partner's nervous system becoming increasingly steady, connected, regulated when they see the betraying partner emotionally reliable, honest, responsive to their needs, and protective of repairing the attachment and the attachment bond. So the betrayed partner's ability to trust really is dependent upon the betraying partner's consistent pattern of trustworthy behavior. So when we think of trust, we think about trust as choosing to risk something valuable to us and becoming vulnerable to another person's actions. So I often talk in my groups about how, someone needs to earn the right to our vulnerability and show us that they are trustworthy. Because distrust is the opposite, which is when I'm vulnerable and I share something with you that's very close to me, it's not safe with you. I can't trust you with it. And remember, when there is no safety in a relationship, then there's going to be no connection. There's no opportunity to repair the rupture to the attachment bond. I know that betrayed partners are very aware of the betraying partner's behaviors, and they're constantly questioning, is it safe to connect to you? And the addict partner, the betraying partner, might think they're being trustworthy when they're asked that question by saying things like, well, I'm sorry for what I did. Or they might share about their recovery meetings, but only if the betrayed partner asks, or they keep reminding the betrayed partner of all they are doing to rebuild trust. What the betrayed partner needs to see is trust building in action. So that's where being trustworthy comes in. And that's what the betraying partner must develop and become. So trustworthy means you become a predictable, safe partner through an ongoing pattern of truth, transparency, accountability, and going in again, again, and again, doing a repair to the relationship. It means the betrayed partner never has to guess, investigate, or manage the betraying partner's recovery work, their integrity, what they are doing, so that they feel emotionally safe and relationally secure. It means the betrayed partner doesn't end up saying, I started to feel like I could rebuild trust, but his behaviors keep making him untrustworthy. So it is the betraying partner's job to become trustworthy. So I'm going to tell you a couple of things to be careful of, because you need to really change and reframe your thinking if you're a betraying partner. You can't look at trust as a demand that the betraying partner is making of you. It's really about, again, we reframe it to, this is part of the work I'm doing for relational repair. And the trustworthiness that the betrayed partner is looking for is based on data. They want to see repeated, observable actions over time that indicate to them that you are safe. So like I said, a couple things, be very careful. I know it can be very frustrating to be a betraying partner, doing all your work, trying to rebuild trust, and it doesn't seem to come. The betrayed partner still feels unsafe. So when that happens, be aware as the betraying partner not to say, I can't believe you still don't trust me. Or you should trust me by now. I'm doing everything right. I've been doing everything right for 2 years. So if you've said a version of either of these, what you're doing is you're asking the betrayed partner to comfort you about the consequence of your behaviors. So when you say to them, you should trust me by now, you're placing a deadline on their healing. And it is so individual and it takes time. So instead, what you might say to them is, it makes sense that you don't trust me yet. I broke your trust. I'm going to continue to work on rebuilding it. And it might even be you don't owe me any trust. I'm going to work on earning it. So it's really important that you're very, very sensitive to the word trust when you hear the betrayed partner say it. And there are 6 things that you can do. So we're going to call this the roadmap today for rebuilding trustworthiness and becoming trustworthy. So the first one is proactivity, being proactive in the work that you're doing, being proactive in sharing about the work that you are doing with the betrayed partner. So proactivity means that your betrayed partner isn't forced into the role of being a parole officer, a detective, your recovery manager. You take the lead. So you, on your own, without a reminder, schedule your therapy, schedule your groups and get into groups, contact your sponsor. You initiate also the daily or the weekly check-ins. Now, this is an area where often I see betrayed partners come in and say, if he can't initiate the check-in like he promised he would do, then I just can't trust him. It's really important. For some reason, check-ins and that consistency and the willingness to do it is really on the radar of the betrayed partner. So if you commit to do it, you must follow through and you take the lead. You're proactive. Another area where you can be proactive is just sharing information before the betrayed partner has to drag it out of you. Just be open, be transparent, share your recovery plan willingly. And then throughout your recovery work, share your progress, share what you're learning, share aha moments. When you show initiative and you're doing it proactively, then you're showing the betrayed partner that you're trying to rebuild trust. So some of the things you might say to the betrayed partner is, here's what I'm doing this week for recovery. Is now a good time to do a check-in? What kind of check-in would you like? So find out from the betrayed partner what words you want them to use. You can even ask them, what would you like to know about my recovery work? I'd love to share. So step 2 is that there's consistency in everything you do as a betraying partner, but especially in recovery work. So consistency means that you follow through on everything you do. You are reliable. There's no small lies, there's no big lies, there's no minimizing, there's no telling of partial truths. You show up when you say you're going to show up. You follow through when you commit, and you do this every time. So again, it's about that consistency, reliability. So trust is not built in just one big moment. It's built in tiny moments every day, and it happens with that consistency piece. When there's inconsistency, I see the betrayed partners become very activated or triggered. They are watching. It's that data that they're putting in their evidence bag as to whether or not you're safe. So the more consistent you are as a betraying partner, the more the betrayed partner's nervous system can calm down. One small lie can cause the betrayed partner to go back into a trigger, a trauma response, into her betrayal trauma. And it might not seem big to you as a betraying partner, that little lie, but what happens is it's a reminder of them that their reality still isn't safe. So there is going to be a limbic response. So consistency looks like if you say you're going to be home at 6, you're home at 6. If you can't make it home at 6, you call and you let the partner know. You do your recovery work and all the things you should be doing when no one is even watching. And you stop all sorts of dishonesty. So that means excuses, omissions, vague answers, like I said, half-truths. You're just willing to be reliable in sharing the data, in doing the recovery work, and in how you show up with the betrayed partner. Step 3 is taking action to meet the betrayed partner's needs and doing it willingly. So remember that the person you broke, the betrayed partner, is going to have their own specific trust needs. And your job is to ask about them, have the difficult conversations about them, learn what they are, and then respond accordingly. So you're going to ask them what they need to feel safe. And you're not going to have them remind you again and again and again what it is they need. So one of their needs might be turning to them and asking them, what do you need from me today to feel more safe, more secure? Maybe to feel like I'm more trustworthy. So just fill in the blank and ask them what they need from you during the day. And when you make that, you go to them with that question, do it without attitude. I know betrayed partners often say to me, I can tell when it's a checklist item. I want it to feel sincere. So when you do show up to meet their needs, you've got to be fully present, engaged, eye contact, and you've got to keep in the back of your mind that you're doing this not to check something off, but because you're really trying to rebuild that connection. And connection feels good when we're in a relationship, and we want it to be safe. So it's really, really important that you have that willingness. You've got to understand that recovery and healing work, it's not 50-50. A lot of this falls on your shoulders. So you've got to keep that in mind and keep that willingness to meet their needs. Step 4 is to have openness and honesty, and this is a very important requirement. So openness and honesty are deal breakers. So honesty is telling the full truth when asked. Openness is telling about the truth you've been asked about and giving the details, giving the data, especially in the areas where trust is broken. So honesty, again, is the full and real truth when you're asked, and openness is just telling things to your partner without them having to ask. Be willing to give the information because that transparency that comes with being honest and open is an important part of being trustworthy. So this is a good area for betraying partners to think about internal boundaries. So an internal boundary is a boundary that you put in place for yourself to follow so that others are safe with you. So in this case, that internal boundary would be that I am going to be honest and forthcoming in all the information my partner needs to know for safety. It could be around your acting out through a formal therapeutic disclosure. It could be about where you went to lunch that day and if there were maybe people there that could have been triggering to you and what you did about that. Be forthright, be open, and be honest, be transparent. Because I often hear from betrayed partners, they need openness plus honesty and transparency over time to feel like their betraying partner is trustworthy. So transparency can also look like sharing everything, like passwords, your travel and the time you're going to be places, financial transparency, if maybe money was involved in any part of the acting out. So you want to think about and ask the betrayed partner, where do you need me to be transparent? And then be willing to do it. Step number 5 is being vulnerable and showing empathy. So vulnerability is something that is very difficult for the betraying partners. It's really hard because shame may come up. And shame comes up, those shame-based beliefs of maybe, I'm not good, I am bad. When my partner asks me these things, right, it's a reminder of how much I've hurt them and what a bad partner I've been. And it's hard to be vulnerable because when we step into that space of vulnerability, we risk judgment. I might even risk my betrayed partner getting angry or rejecting me. So that's where you need to do the shame work to allow yourself to be vulnerable. And we're not going to get into that today. I've done past webinars on that you might want to go back and look at. So that means that you, as the betraying partner, needs to understand your shame, how it shows up, be able to acknowledge it, and then know how to manage it. So that vulnerability requires that you show up in a real way, being accountable, and being fully emotionally present. And sharing things that are hard to share and hoping that in that process, you're becoming safer and safer and safer. So what does empathy look like? Well, when you show up with empathy, again, you're going to be present with the betrayed partner without being defensive. So that means you've got to be grounded emotionally. And in that process, as the betrayed partner is sharing their hurt and their pain, you're going to validate your actions and how it caused them the hurt and the pain. You're going to be able to sit and tolerate the really hard conversation. And in that, as they're sharing about their hurt and their pain, you're not correcting how they're feeling. You're not challenging their perception. You're not defending your intentions. Instead, you're just holding that space to let them share with you what's going on internally for them, how they're feeling and what they're thinking. And as you do that, listen to the impact of your betrayal and hold space for that, like I said. And then use the AVR formula where you acknowledge their pain, you acknowledge the hurt, you let them know you understand why they would feel that way, and then you validate the feeling they have. So it could be lonely, sad, fearful, and then reassure. The reassurance part is letting them know what you're doing for recovery that's going to create safety for them. So it's really important that you step forward time and time again, staying regulated, validating their hurt and their pain, identifying and validating the feelings, and then reassuring them. That's going to make you trustworthy. Number 6 is you take full ownership. So ownership is more than just repeatedly saying, I'm sorry. Ownership is being specific about the ways that you harmed the betrayed partner and then asking what they need for restitution and then making restitution. And part of that restitution is being in good, solid recovery and showing them that you're living differently. You're living a healthy lifestyle. It's consistent responsibility for both the behavior and the impact of the behavior without minimizing. It's really easy to try to minimize it because it can create a lot of distressing emotions within you, the betraying partner, when you're hearing about the pain. It's that you admit mistakes quickly. Just take ownership and take accountability and then make the repair and then keep owning your mistakes over time or keep owning the pain and the hurt and the betrayal behaviors and do it consistently, like we talked about earlier. So, how do betrayed partners know when trustworthiness is real? So, remember, trust is rebuilt through repeated, observable repair behaviors and not just words alone. So, this last week, I held the boundaries group. And so I had the boundaries group share with me what they see their betraying partners do that indicates to them that they are rebuilding trust, they're trustworthy. So I'm going to share with you some of the things that they shared in group. One of them is that the betraying partner shares their recovery work and they're able to do it in a grounded manner. So they can sit and share and not get dysregulated. Which leads into the second thing, which is there's consistency with the betraying partner's emotional regulation. I know we often talk time and time again about the betrayed partner being emotionally regulated, but it's also important that those in recovery are emotionally regulated as well. It's seeing the partner consistently going to group and to therapy, sharing about their experience. They don't have to share details about other people, but it's more about what they're learning. It's being emotionally present when they're together. So what that means is, because I asked, they said they're not on their phone. They're not trying to do two things at once. They're sitting there close. They're making eye contact. They're saying things that indicate to me that they are right there with me in that moment. They show remorse and empathy. We talked a little bit about that already. There's more humility. So that means when I asked, what does that mean? They said, well, their ego takes a back seat. So to me, it's like the shame is managed. It's that I don't have to be right, that I can sit there and in that moment, I can listen to all the hard things and take it in and validate it and take that data and do something in a very productive, healthy way. It's initiating all of your recovery work as a betraying partner and being consistent. It's being aware of the betrayed partner's boundaries and following them. Following through on commitments, telling the truth even when it might hurt the betrayed partner, and then knowing in that moment how to help the betrayed partner stay regulated, because it's hard. It's a hard conversation. So you're there co-regulating in hard times with a betrayed partner when you're sharing hard things. Again, making eye contact and acknowledging the betrayed partner's non-verbal cues. So let's say you wake up in the morning as a betrayed partner and you just look sad, right? Or maybe you're breathing deeply and sighing. It's that the addict partner actually acknowledge, I can see that you're sighing or you look sad today. You know, what can I help you with? It's getting in and doing really hard work, even like EMDR at some point, getting to the root of everything. And then one of my favorite ones was the last one I'm going to share, which is it's planning for the future with me and having real healthy goals together. Okay, so where do you begin? So after you've listened to this webinar, I'm going to challenge the betrayed partner to write down a bullet point list of my trust increases when I see, and then just make a list. Start with 5 or 10. Don't make it 40, but make it manageable. Things that you see the betraying partner do that would help increase your sense of trust. If you're the betraying partner, then I want you to write down 5 trustworthy behaviors that you're going to engage in this coming week without being asked. And then you're going to share it with the betrayed partner. So in conclusion, remember, rebuilding trust is slow. That's normal. It is going to take time. Remember that the betrayed partner is integrating into their life, into their world, and into their truth as they know it now, months or even years of deception. So trust is going to take time. It takes time for the betrayed partner's nervous system to regulate, and they need to see that repeated evidence that there is safety. So the focus of the betrayed partner is to work towards rebuilding trust when there's evidence that the betraying partner is being trustworthy. And sometimes that's a challenge. It's hard to be vulnerable. It's hard to take that risk again. And then the focus of recovery for the betraying partner is on becoming trustworthy. And you do it in some of the ways we've talked about today. And you do it by asking the betrayed partner what they need for trust. So, anyway, that's my ideas for today. And hopefully, I've given you some ideas that you can use in your own life.
I have a question on the last one because you said the betraying partner would have 5 trustworthy behaviors to engage in this week and share with the betrayed partner. Would that be after they've heard what what's on the list for the betrayed partner?
It could be. I mean, I
Okay.
think this is a great thing to share at the check in. So, if I was working with a couple, I might say, hey, at one check in, let's have the betrayed partner share what you need, and get
Mhm.
specific.
Mhm.
And then give the betraying partner a day or two and have them come back and commit to 5 things.
I like that because I was thinking if the addict partner is lacking awareness of what to do, like their list of the things that they think might be trust building may not resonate with the betrayed partner. So making sure that it's working for both of them. I guess that was where I was going.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And we need to
And
coordinate. I'm seeing more and more, you know, that we don't coordinate and talk about these things, you're right? We kind of wait until we get into couples therapy. And I'm a proponent of getting into couples therapy sooner than later, especially as soon as we finish formal therapeutic disclosure. And so we can talk about these things because oftentimes it's hard. Maybe we don't have the communication skills. Maybe we need a third party to help us emotionally regulate. And so therefore we just hold off. So it's just so important to talk about these things.
I think communication is probably one of the key missing ingredients in the couples that have these challenges, because a lot of it is, well, how do I help her heal? And this is just an example, and it's like, like I wonder about
Mhm.
to ask her, like, I like have that conversation. And that's such a scary thing to be vulnerable. I want to go back to your number 4, the openness and honesty. And I'm like, in the 12 step, how it works: honesty, open-mindedness, willingness. So this is a very key component of recovery work, is being open and willing and honest. Like all 3 of those is like, that's how it works.
Yeah, I just thought of another example of openness,
Yeah.
and the honesty piece. One of the things that a recovering partner needs to do is to learn to be radically honest, even though it might, cause somebody else to have really strong emotions. And so openness and honesty means that if I'm feeling a certain way, I'm honest about that. Or if I'm thinking a certain thing, I don't say otherwise. So that's really hard because, again, it goes back to the minimization. I'm trying not to have my betrayed partner get triggered. So therefore, I'm not going to really be truthful. It's so important that you are. A betrayed partner can feel when you're not truthful. They've got this sense in them that they can tell when you're not present, when you're not truthful.
Yeah, and even if wallpaper over that, which happens, in hindsight, they'll go back and like, I knew something was going on. So you may not get caught in the very moment, but it still erodes, any trust. I thought about when you talked about, like, trust is built over time, and trust is taken away in an instant. And so it is a challenge. The one other caveat I wanted with number 4 is, because transparency, sharing things if there's questions to ask. But you said it in a bit about disclosure. It's like, like, this is not disclosure is not a do it yourself. And if it's like, well, she asked, I get this all the time. She asked for the information, so I gave it to her, including all the gory details. And now everybody's, like, it's just a hot mess. So it's also the partner having the support to know, when and what to ask, so that it isn't, I need to know, I need to know, I need to know. Of course your brain is telling you that, and it makes it more difficult. So this is this is why having qualified professionals, and I do think some, not couples therapy, but couples work to navigate. This is how we communicate. This is what the check-ins are going to be. And then, yeah, couples therapy after formal therapeutic disclosure, all of those pieces. Get professional help. And if you don't have a qualified therapist, TAMI at seekingintegrity.com, tell me where you're located and I'll help you. Okay, so we've got questions. Um, I, Is, so I'm going to start with the bottom one because I saw it as fast. Is sending this video to my betraying partner problematic?
I don't believe it is, but I think it all depends on how we send it. And I'm not sure where you're at in your relationship. If you feel like there's some connection, or maybe you're feeling like, hey, they're not getting it, just make that vulnerable request and say, hey, I saw this video today. It really, it said it in a way that I've not been able to say it. I'm trying to think the best way to say it, kind of diplomatically, right? So we get the buy-in, because we really want them to understand what you need. And sometimes it's hard as a betrayed partner to say it and say it emotionally regulated and for them to understand it. I often find that when a third party says it, we can receive it a little bit easier. So maybe just saying, hey, I've got this video. I'm going to send you the link. Would you please be willing to view it? It's on rebuilding trust and becoming trustworthy. And then I'll circle back around and maybe we can talk a little bit about it at our next check-in. So present it like that. I don't think it's problematic. I think we need to be able to share. I've had a lot of people tell me, hey, I've sent your video to, my betraying partner and they like how you presented it. Or, gosh, you gave them a couple of ideas. So I do think it's appropriate.
I just put the link for the videos, and I will tell you, I was thinking because Dr. Eddie Caparucci yesterday did a webinar on demonstrating emotional leadership, and these two paired together really well. So this one won't be posted till Monday, but I put the link for where the videos are. There's good content on there, and for those that are wanting to move forward in their relationship, this stuff can help and can be said in a way that it's someone else, it's like Debbie said, a third party. So okay, so the first question, I'll go back to the top now. Today I shared my decision to finalize separation with my partner after 5 years of trying to rebuild without success, sadly. We had a session with our couples therapist to help keep things grounded and regulated. In session, he was on his best behavior and saying all the right things and wanted to continue to work on things. After session, I invited him to share his response, my decision, and it was like a switch flipped and the defensive version of him I've experienced showed up. Why? I took it as data, sadly.
Okay, first of all, let's talk about data. And I'm so grateful that you said it that way. We do look at data, right? I'm going to look at, and we often talk to the betrayed partners. I know we've done it when we've been at the intensives about evidence bags. And I'm going to have an evidence bag that I put the data that is information that indicates that my betraying partner is not in recovery. And I'm going to have a data bag that shows that they are in recovery. And then I'm going to just use that to start noticing, right? I'm gathering information. So you shared with me some pretty significant information or data. The fact that there's been 5 years of trying to rebuild without success, right? And that, you went into a couples session and your betraying partner acted one way and committed or indicated that they wanted to work on it and then switched and changed to the opposite. So I'm really glad. I want to validate the fact that you're looking at it that way. Sometimes it's really hard to face the data, especially when the evidence bag of they're not really in recovery is so full. And we have to get, very real about the reality of our situation. My other working theory is the concept of shame. And that shame, remember, is that intense feeling that we get that somehow we're unworthy, maybe even unworthy of loving connection, that we're seen in a bad light, that people are judging us unfairly. That would be one of the reasons why we move into our shame. So we can move into something called shame management even. So shame management might be that when I go in and I'm working with a third party like a therapist, I present one way and I say all the correct things and I figured out through the years exactly what I need to say. And so I am just offering that out without having the two things that are really important, which is the willingness to do it and the capability, the tools, which it sounds like your partner, if there's been 5 years, doesn't have it, right? So then what happens is, because when we do shame management, what we're doing is, I want the other person to see me as good enough. I want the other person to see me as valuable. I want the other person to not judge me. And so we say what we think the other person wants to hear. And that makes us look good. Then what happens then is we step out of that situation like you did. He's back with you. You guys have been in this negative cycle for a number of years, right? And his shame, when you go to ask him, right, share your response about my decision, and even why did you say that? I'm curious, right? All of a sudden his shame gets triggered and the defensiveness moves in. So when shame gets triggered, it mirrors a fight, flight, freeze response. So shame is going to show up as a fight response by being defensive or angry, a flight response by trying to get out of there, stop the conversation, even minimizing things. And the third one is a freeze, just shut down and nothing at all. So you were obviously dealing with that version of him. That shame came out, and it's very, very hard. And again, it goes back to, it's very, very difficult to do a repair in a relationship, even with separation, if one of the parties is not willing to do it. That's the big thing. That's about change. Capabilities and capacity, we can work on that. That's through therapy, through group work, through couples work. So those are my thoughts on your situation.
Yeah. And I just put there's a moving on alone drop-in group for betrayed partners in on Thursdays. I put that in the chat. That may be a useful place for you to join too. Those are for partners who have left, have been left, or have one foot out the door. There isn't the focus on repairing the relationship. In the previously recorded webinars, which I put the link on, Debbie has some good ones on grief and loss, and ending a relationship, is full of grief and loss. So, but I was thinking the same thing, the facade of like, well, I'm going to look good, and and it's a lot easier to hold a facade in an hour, with a therapist. I mean, the record that I know of so far is one of the clients that came to Seeking Integrity for residential treatment had lied to his therapist for 11 years. So that's not being the open, honest, willing, any of those things. So it's easy to hold a facade of I want to look good, and almost like, oh, see, and like she's the problem. They're those kind of things. So I'm sorry for you, but it sounds like you have data and you're making your choices and you've got support for that. Lean into the support that's on our website too. Betrayed partner here in crisis. Husband lied and may have slipped relapse. Currently in an ambiguous separation. Betraying partner. I am processing gaslighting. So I am processing. So the question is this gaslighting? And not ready to commit to therapeutic separation. How do I tell my adult children that we have separated and in limbo? Husband in recovery 40 plus years with inconsistent recovery. So not really in recovery. I'm like, I hear this a lot, and I think it's unfair to people who are in real recovery when people are, kind of, like a little bit in, a little bit out, but not really. Like you either do the work, it's the willingness to do the work. So he's been around and he knows some of the tools. I'm going to pull some resources, but I'm going to ask you to answer
Okay.
that next.
Okay. So in your question, I just want to kind of reflect on some of the things I heard you say. It sounds like right now we're in the middle of a crisis, that you suspect that your betraying partner has slipped. And as a result of that slip, we're kind of creating this separation. Maybe you're in the same house, maybe they went somewhere, but we don't have any boundaries around it. To me, ambiguous is we're just keeping distance and maybe we're not talking. So it's really important that you do have boundaries put in place around it, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But, and maybe for you, when you mentioned that your betraying partner says, I'm processing, I mean, that could be gaslighting. It could be true. I guess I'd have to look and see if there's other data that would indicate that they're processing by going to group and going to their therapist. But you may not know because there's that ambiguous separation. But I guess the question I have is, do you need to have a formal therapeutic separation. I also call them healing separations because it gives us time to get out of the drama triangle. It gives us time to, work on our recovery work. We have common goals that we put together in the therapeutic document. So that's the boundaries. So maybe understanding a little more about therapeutic separation. And I don't know, Tammy, did you put the information in there on the
I did. Yeah. Yeah.
separation book?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Therapeutic separation, adult children. I found Debbie's on grief and loss, deconstructing gaslighting. All of those are in there.
beautiful. So I would really encourage you to go down through those types of things because I think you've got to get clarity on, do you need a therapeutic or healing separation? And then gather the data on what that looks like. Focus on your recovery. Telling adult children, again, I would do that with the help of a therapist. Because I will sit down with, couples or mostly the betrayed partners when they're wanting to tell children. And we talk about what kind of data that you want to share. Just doing it to do it isn't always the best because sometimes we do it when we are emotionally dysregulated and we don't share it in the healthiest way, even though our intentions are good. And so, yeah, I do think you need to be able to share with your adult children that, hey, this is going on. There have been, that the relationship has had problems for years, right? I don't know what words you want to use. Sometimes we use words like there's been some betrayal in the relationship and I've been unable to come to terms with it or we've been unable to repair it. So with your therapist, you'll figure out the right approach and the right words to use. Um, and I just want to just validate how hard it must be for you to 40 years in and your husband has inconsistent recovery. I imagine you're exhausted. I imagine you've ridden that roller coaster of having hope and riding high thinking things are going to get better only to have, the ground fall out from underneath you. So anyway, turn to those resources. I think that's really good because you do have a lot going on here. And see a therapist. If you're not in with a therapist, get in with a therapist. You need the support, you need the guidance, somebody who can help you every step of the way.
And I've got a couple of things. First of all, we have a residential treatment program for guys like him. And if you're already going, oh, he won't do that, I'm going to invite you. Why does the betraying partner get to be in the driver's seat of what he will or will not do? If there's a boundaries, and guess who's the queen of healthy boundaries? I also put Debbie's next boundary work group starts March 17th. That one's on healing and empowerment. Sounds like a great topic. How do I heal? How do I have empowerment within this chaos and crisis? So please check those out. But Dr. Rob does a one-time 2-hour expert consultation with couples. He is very good at identifying the issues and guiding next steps. Like someone else said, this is more data. Sometimes it's just data for partners where they go, I hear that he is unwilling, and what do I need to do to take care of myself? And whether you stay in the relationship, but at least then you know that he's going to continue to act out, and I'm going to take care of myself, regardless of what he does or doesn't do. But I'm not going to keep hoping that he's going to, get it. So that can be really useful. One time, 2-hour. Email TAMI at seekingintegrity.com if you'd like the information on that. But he does those with couples all around the world. And it can be, it's validating for partners. Some guys actually, get the nudge of going like, oh, I really need to take this seriously. I got a world-renowned expert, helping me. But it's also the validation of like my partner's going, this relationship is in crisis, and I don't want to lose that. So that can be helpful. So all of those things, consider those. When and where and when do you see polygraphs fitting into continuous recovery work, especially when someone post-disclosure has had multiple relapses and still doing the integrity abuse behaviors? So so they're still in active addiction. So you can keep doing disclosures and polygraphs ongoing, and they can keep acting out. We talked a lot about polygraphs on last Monday night. So I'm going to invite you to go check out that previously recorded, but it's I don't hear continuous recovery work when somebody's, well, let me back up. You can't relapse if you're not in recovery. Just not acting out, even if it's on a cycle, is just abstinence. We did and I'll find it, but we did a webinar on the cycle of addiction. So somebody who's just doing this is just on a cycle of addiction. Abstinence is just, not doing that particular behavior. Recovery takes 2 to 5 years of doing the right stuff so that we're doing things differently. So it isn't about a polygraph. I don't hear that the person is actually doing the work, to be in actual recovery. So, but the previously recorded webinars is posted. Check out Dr. Rob's on Monday night.
I
And
want to say
thoughts on
something about polygraphs and trust, okay? Because I do see, and this is something we've got to be very careful of, and that is the betrayed partner becoming reliant on polygraphs only for feeling like they can trust their partner. It kind of goes back to that evidence and the evidence back piece that we have to be looking for that and doing active recovery work, both of you, but especially couples. And so if you feel like the only way I know he's really being truthful if he takes a polygraph may not be true. So be very, very careful on that. Seek the advice of your therapist, and be very cautious and very aware before you go into a polygraph. And you've got to make sure that if you're going to do a polygraph, you've got somebody who is highly, 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 highly qualified in this particular area. And they're not all highly qualified. So that's my saying.
Yeah. Check out Monday nights because we elaborated on this a lot. So,
Good.
Okay. Also, how can you have couples work while the spouse is still lying and acting out even post disclosure? You can't.
You can't. It's not, I mean, you can go in and try, but you're going to spin your wheels and you're going to be frustrated as a betrayed partner and you're going to be stuck in that negative cycle. So, I think you might need to stop and look at how do you get out of that negative cycle. And so that might be one reason to do some kind of a healing separation or circle back around to look at your boundaries and see if there's some boundaries you need to put in place to protect you, the betrayed partner, and then making sure that you hold to those boundaries. And so, we don't have to just run right to formal therapeutic separation, but we can create space within our home environment if we're living with the betraying partner when they are lying and acting out after disclosure. So that's where you're going to find your empowerment in this situation is having good, strong, healthy boundaries. And you'd be surprised at, when you can stick to a boundary, how effective they are.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate. What if I'm a partner? I go, well, he won't honor my boundaries.
Well, so remember that a boundary is something that you are going to do as the betrayed partner if they choose not to honor the framework you've put in place for safety or the boundary. So a consequence is that you as the betrayed partner will take a certain action because we can't force anybody else to do anything. So sometimes that's the struggle that I see with betrayed partners is we have to reframe and reword the boundary so that you stay empowered because it's you that's going to take the action and do the consequence part.
Thank you. That's what, because I hear it often of like, and I have a lot of partners that are in the situation and we talk about it, or they say, I stopped couples therapy because it wasn't helping. And we were just, because reminder, when you're doing couples therapy, the coupleship is the client, neither of you. And the therapy, each of you, that is optimal for each of you is very different on an individual basis. So couples therapy, we talked a little bit about it. Like there's some couples navigation, I'll call it, kind of like how do we communicate? How do we do this before formal therapeutic disclosure? But it's like if somebody's still lying, like that isn't recovery. So you have someone who's still in active addiction, even if they're not acting out. They're a dry drunk is a term that is used around drinking. And honestly, it can be nastier because we're not using the substance that was helping, the maladaptive coping mechanism, so it's really problematic. So until and unless somebody's willing to do the work, then you've got someone who's, remaining in that. And unfortunately, I hate it As someone in recovery, I hate seeing how many people choose to stay stuck in their addiction and then and the partners get taken down with it until and unless they're able to hold healthy boundaries for themselves. So again, March 17th, Debbie's teaching a course
And
for
I just want
partners.
to, I do want to, just kind of have some, empathy for you, because it is so hard when you want somebody to just do what they need to do for recovery because you want the relationship to work. You want it to be safe. You want to connect. And so there's a lot of pain in that, when they won't do what you need them to do to create safety. So that's really difficult.
I'm putting all of the webinars.
Okay.
We post all of them. So I just put another link in there. And yes, and so all of those are posted. I created a hit list, literally all those ones that I pulled because I was referring to them so often. I add to it because, like Dr. Eddie's from yesterday, it's on my list now. This one will be too on Monday when it's posted. I'm going to add this one because it's a really helpful, one as well. So all of this stuff, we have, not to scare you, but we have like 1,300 hours plus, probably pushing 1,400 hours now of content. And it's organized to a degree, but I went through and pulled, like the therapeutic separation, demystifying gaslight. There's a bunch of them that I was referring to often, so yes, you can find them. If you are looking for something in particular and can't find it, our YouTube channel is vast, but you should be able to search on that. But if you get stuck on something or have a specific question, email me. I might know exactly where it is. I'm good at copying and pasting. Okay. We have been separated for 9 months and it has been ambiguous because of his continued acting out. So that doesn't, so the therapeutic separation, I put the webinar, Dr. Stevie Hall and Lindsay Stanley wrote a workbook on how, on therapeutic separation and whether it's in-house or out of house. This is the guidelines. And like Debbie was saying about other things, there are consequences of like, this is what we're looking to do in order to come back together again. This is, if I'm not seeing this, then there will be another consequence. People, we hear 9 months. I've heard 3 years of separation, and there's that ambiguous space you're talking about it. Like, and I'm going, that's hard. It feels like, both of you get stuck in that. And if it's working for you, like zero harm, zero foul, no judgment, but if you're not happy with that and hoping that that continues for the next 3 years, then I'd really invite you to, determine what the consequences, are. And this is level up, so, if you are not working with qualified professionals, those women have taught classes on therapeutic separation. There is a workbook. Your qualified professionals can help you navigate that space, but this is get help, this is the tough stuff. You want qualified professionals involved so that they can help you navigate it. Thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Yeah. We don't like ambiguous anything. That means we don't know what the purpose is. That means we don't know what the rules are. That means that, I'm in this state of limbo. And so I imagine that you've got, ruminating thoughts, the monkey mind thoughts, constant chatter. You're probably replaying things over and over in your head. So I do think clarity is really, really important. And again, start with knowing and getting the data and the information so you know what you need clarity on, you know what the steps look like, and then you can speak up and you can ask for it to happen. And again, you can't do it together on your own. You're going to need help from somebody. So I don't know if either one of you have a qualified, therapist, a CSAT that can really help you in this. But that's my thoughts.
I just put the should I stay or should I go? It was information. Kristen Snowden did like a survey, and I honestly recommend this for couples. Like each of you, like how into this relationship are you? How willing are you to do things? Do I like this? All of those things. And then the next one was one partner who stayed, one partner who left. Zero judgment on that. The next one was divorce mediation, how to navigate that. And then the final one was on the legal separation. We also did one with Arlene Rosen on collaborative divorce. I'll put that one in there too because I see it. I like my little hit list is going to be a book pretty soon. But it, all of these are just resources. This is just information. Nobody knows how to do this stuff. You don't ever expect to have to, when you get involved in a relationship, you don't go, well, I'm going to need to know about that. So we want to have good resources to help you and support you. But I was thinking when you're talking about the ambiguous, I was like, that's that's the opposite of trust building. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's
Mm-hmm.
going to happen, and all the fear, that of what could happen. It's got to be super dysregulating. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Such good
Okay.
resources.
Oh,
Such good resources in the chat.
yeah. And it says, where can, uh, yeah. So I put the webinar for therapeutic separation in the chat. I'll pull it one more time, but it's in there. I put it in there. I got to go find it. I'm looking at my other, here it is. Okay. And they did a podcast with Dr. Rob as well. So check that out. Here we go. Chat. Sorry. Boom. There's therapeutic separation. Um, yeah. So check out the polygraph one. It doesn't it doesn't prove anything. I mean, his willingness to do it may prove something to you. His unwillingness is what I hear is you're asking for something, he's unwilling to do it. That's to me a bigger tell than anything else. But
Mhm.
the polygraphs, I'm not going to go into it because I did a whole bunch on Monday. So anyway, so check that out. But I think it's really, you have data. You've got the data. He's refusing to do anything that's willing to help you move forward. So what does that mean for you, and how do you take care of you regardless of what he does or doesn't do?
Mhm.
Boundaries course, Debbie, March, do it.
I
You'll be
know.
you'll be grateful.
Yeah, the boundaries groups are really good. We do spend a lot of time talking. I need you to know that boundaries are not boring. And a lot of times we kind of are able to kind of pull in other aspects and elements of betrayal recovery. And so it's very, very interactive, and people are actually working and sharing. And so, yeah, the groups are great. The women are amazing that come in. And it doesn't matter if you've had recent discovery disclosure or you've been in recovery for 2 years. We all need boundaries work because we don't learn how to do boundaries, most of us growing up.
Or
We
have support to do them.
had no support.
So even if you think
Mm,
you have a boundary,
mm,
you don't have the support, to hold
right,
it. So yeah,
right.
yeah. I think the group, um, somebody will say something and you'll go, oh, I hadn't thought of that, or it's just and the support, to navigate all of this. You're not alone. There's no shame. Like you're here looking to have healing and empowerment. Like that's a good thing for moving forward. So
Yeah.
thank you as always. Great information. I look forward to posting this on Monday. Actually, I don't do it. Scott does. So it'll be posted on Monday. It will be on my hit list, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Hey, bye,
All
everybody.
right. Bye.